Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. I'm sitting here with my good friend and friend of the show, Mr. Todd Jones. How are you doing today, Todd?
It's a lazy Sunday, man. Not too bad. Not too bad.
So what I thought we'd do is Todd's done some incredible work with a product called the Website Copy Framework, and he's just recently launched it on Product Hunt, which is a big deal. Congratulations, Todd, first of all.
Thank you.
And I thought we'd do a little bit of Q&A for Todd because I think there's some people who really don't understand what the framework is. So, Todd, why did you develop the WCF or website copy framework in the first place?
Okay. Good question. A few years ago when I started doing copywriting for website projects, I basically developed my own little process. A lot of trial and error, a lot of error, and using, what's the word I'm looking for? Good copywriting techniques and that kind of thing from expert copywriters that I look up to, that I learn from, the Joanna Weebs of the world, the Joel Kleckays, those kinds of people. And I was, started doing my own process. And in fact, I used it on projects before I ever launched it. And then I said, well, I'm kind of halfway down this road. Let me build some cheat sheets type of thing and use it as a lead magnet giveaway. So I did that and kind of launched that at Agency Trailblazers conference last year, 2019. It was part of a giveaway. Lee Jackson made that available for people, and about probably a handful of people downloaded, not a whole lot of people, but one person in particular downloaded named Paul Lacey. And Paul is a excellent designer developer in the Generate Press, Elementor, Beaver Builder area ecosystem there in the UK. And he's like, Todd, this stuff is fantastic. I use this to sell, and I think he said, don't get me wrong on this, I think he said a 2,000 pound contract for consulting on content. And he's like, you shouldn't give it away, you should sell it. I'm like, oh, okay. So that got the wheels turning in my head. And I started talking to people like you, Devender, and more, Cohen. And, they advised me on building because they have done these things themselves. So they advised me, gave me some really good tips. I took it and packaged it. Had a professional designer to design the layout for the main ebook in there. And I started to sell it. Of course, we launched it at a really good deal. Use Gumroad. That's what Devender suggested. I thought it was a good idea. No out-of-pocket expense for me. And so basically it become, was kind of my process, if you will. And I packaged it and sold it, and anybody can use the process. The bottom line is, if you hired me in the last 2 or 3 years to write website copy, that's essentially the process I'm going to go through. It's not templated in the sense that you just add your stuff in there and you have turnkey copy. It's not that. It's more strategy. And I tell people when they buy it and they look at the introduction video and those kind of things that, you still need a writer. You still need someone who can put words together and make a sentence, a paragraph, that kind of thing. But this is the kind of stuff that your copywriter is going to go through with you before they ever start writing. So basically it was kind of to help myself out. And then whenever someone validated it to me as something that could be used to help people like himself, I went ahead and packaged it and launched it.
Yeah. And it's so often the case, right? We develop stuff internally to help ourselves out, and they turn into products. I've heard this, happen again and again and again. And I'm working on one of those right now, actually, in the time management space. That's the same idea, where it's stuff I developed to run processes internally, and now.
Yeah, and Kim Doyle has done the same thing, and Kim and Jody they went ahead and did a course to go along with the content planner. I know your users are aware of the content planner, and so they've done that. And also a couple of what I consider big players in the content marketing game currently. One is Grow and Convert agency, and the other one is Foundation with Ross Simmons, and they have both done the same thing. Ross and his brand have done, essentially, it's like I don't know if you call it courses, but kind of training. They train in you on the stuff they use. And then Grow and Convert, they waited a long time, but they took everything internally they developed and turned it into a course. And those are two. I've bought some of Ross's stuff, hadn't had a chance to go through it. The Grow and Convert, if you want to be a great copywriter, I would look at that. But then also Julia McCoy has done the same thing at Express Writers. And so, yeah, it's prevalent in the field for sure. People basically package their own process and sell it, because not everybody can afford the services. So it's another way of helping maybe somebody who doesn't have the budget to work directly with you.
Yeah. And then the other one, of course, in that field, worth mentioning too, is a guy by the name of DG, who I kind of tout all over the place, David Garrard. David was up at Drift, and he's now at, I believe, at Privy, if I recall right.
Correct.
And he's the same thing. Like, if you follow David on LinkedIn, he's forever sharing his copyright. I think last week he did a talk where he shared some books that he had spoke about and things like that. So he's forever sharing stuff as well in the field.
Dave is an interesting guy because I follow him pretty heavily on LinkedIn, and he gets a lot of engagement, as you know, on LinkedIn. So his stuff shows up in my feed a lot. But here's a guy who basically refers to himself as a marketer, right? I'm a marketer first, kind of like we are. But then he comes out and gives these glowing review of copywriting and how good it's been to him. So it's kind of an interesting scenario. And I have told you this before, and I'll say it again. I have learned more about marketing from copywriters in the copywriting industry than any other industry ever. I mean, I can go back and start naming names, people I've learned about marketing from, going back to Ben Settle, who is a email copywriter, just all the way up. You know, I could name names.
It was funny because about 5 years ago, I took a digital marketing certification, and one of the trainers, not the lead trainer, who I know very well, I went to and I said, you know what I'm really interested in? Give me a list of your top 10 copywriting books. And that was even before you and I had met, before any of these discussions. And I had the foresight back then to say, make some recommendations, because it makes a difference.
And there's so many out there, and it's hard to, I just actually put out a little ebook. It's about writing your copy. And it's really more along the techniques of actually writing it. But I've got a few books in there that are in the copywriting. Everybody's got their list, right? Yeah. So the Copywriter Club, which is a really good Facebook group and podcast, Kira Hug and Rob Marsh, good people. They have a list on their website, like 25 or something.
Yeah, they do. It's really good.
So you know, Neville Medora, he's put out his list. You know, there's a lot of people, and you'll find some that overlap, you know, and then you'll see each person will have their own, you know, books that are important to them. So I think if you read 5 and reread them, you're doing well. You're doing well.
So I agree with you on that. If you read 5 books, I'm an avid reader, as you know. What I would say to people is, if you don't want that physical book, go get a Kindle book, Kindle reader. You can get a Kindle reader for an Android or an iPhone device. I do that quite frequently. I read. I got 2 books on the go. One being Go Fuck Yourself, if you've seen that book. And the other one I got on the go is a mutual person we know, a funnels book by Mike Killen right now on the go, which I'm almost done. So if you don't want the paper books, go do something.
Yeah. So what I usually do most of the time, not always, the Kindle is actually cheaper than the physical book. So if I'm a little unaware, if I want to buy this or not, I'll buy the Kindle and look through it. And I never use a tablet, or I always read on my desktop, but I'll look through it. And I'm like, okay, you know, if it's something I physically want in my hand on my desk, then I will buy that. And so a case in point is this year, there's a lady named Jennifer Havis who has a book on the right message. I think how she calls it. It's basically voice of customer data research, which is a fancy term for saying we find out what people say about your product and your business. And copywriters use that. That's the one thing that the website copy framework does not address. But she has what I think is probably the primer. So if you're a a business and you want to do some research on your customer, because basically what we do, the most effective copy is swiping what people say about you, you
Yeah.
know. And so she has a really good book on. I bought the first edition on Kindle. I've looked through it probably more than once. Then I said, I'm going to buy. I had some money. I got a gift card from my insurance company for being a good little trooper. So I was like, I'm going to put it on an Amazon gift card and I'm going to buy stuff from Amazon. And I was already planning on buying it, and I looked into it, and lo and behold, she was having a second edition to come out. And I waited for the second edition and bought a physical copy of the second edition. Now I have a physical copy of the second edition. So I'm pretty excited about that. Hadn't had a chance to look at it yet, but pretty excited about it.
My rule of thumb is kind of the same. If I think it's something I'm going to be in and out of, I'll buy it physical. I've got a couple books where I actually own both it and the Kindle, just because then I've got the Kindle edition in my bag if I need something quickly. I think there's value to doing both. I also actually like audiobooks, as you know, so I'll go that route as well.
I need to get into that, but I'm assuming you listen to them when you walk.
I listen to them walk. I listen to them when I work. I'm a bit of a podcast junkie, as many people who follow me know, and not only I do one, I probably have.
I think one of the reasons I don't do podcasts and audiobooks too much is I have a hard time like doing something and listening and getting into it. Sometimes it depends on the type of work. So I'm starting to pull up the podcasts I want on Spotify because it's an easy way, because I have Spotify up a lot. So as you know, one of the new podcasts I've been listening to when I can is the one by Ross Simmons, which I talked about earlier, and Talia Wolf, who's a brilliant CRO.
Very bright, actually. Yeah.
Talia is wonderful. And my friend Sophie actually works for her. So it's kind of I feel like it's kind of in the family. Anyway, the two of them put together, he's a marketer, content marketer, and he's a more or less what does CRO stand for? I am drawing a big fat blank.
So am I.
Rate optimization. Click rate optimization.
Yeah.
She is a CRO expert, probably as good as there is. And so the two of them come together, and they do. In fact, here's an interesting thing. They managed to get Bob Ross on their most recent podcast, The Painter. So I'm interested in that. I haven't listened to it yet, but I think that'll be a fascinating. He was doing content marketing before it was cool. So
that's really cool. So once you developed the WCF, then you moved on and you developed the WCF for agencies. Why did you do that? What need were you trying to fill? And and why should an agency buy it? Well, I'm not even going to say why. They should buy it. Give us the reasons why they should buy it. And agencies, I'm going to call you guys all out right now because I like to do stuff like that, especially if you're in the WordPress world. Stop being so cheap and saying you want to make money and not buy stuff. Like, honestly, like just get out there and do this one. So give me the reasons why they need it as well.
Well, to go back to like when Paul, of course, runs an agency with his partner there in the UK. That kind of opened my eyes. Like, okay, he used it in a consulting session with his client. And my thought was, actually, the first several people who bought it were really from the web agency world. A lot of them were solo people, people like our friend Ryan and some other people who are more or less solo. They don't have too many people on their team. And so they thought this is another asset to add to my workflow.
No question.
And so most of the people who bought it early were in fact people like Ryan. And then I offered it when I did I thought, well, it's got all my branding on it, and that's fine. And they could reuse it all they wanted to with my brand on it. But I thought, what if I made it where they could brand it themselves? And I'm kind of thinking about, there's a video, WP 101, and I think they have a white label thing where you put your dashboard. And so as an agency, you can buy that and put basic WordPress videos in there and brand it yourself rather than the WP 101 thing. So and also WP Easy Guide. I use that a lot. I send people there. So you want to know how to do WordPress? Go to WP Easy Guide. Well, it's free to get off their website, no problem. But they have a white label as well. So technically, I could buy it and brand it this copy plot, study digital marketing, whatever, and use it for all my clients, So I thought white label. So most of the people, like I said, who bought the first iteration were essentially those kinds of people. And so I offered an upgrade, which most of them took. Many of them did, and some are doing upgrades now. I had one to upgrade last week, but he bought it earlier this year and was trying it out. He told me, and he pinged me and said, I have a code for the people who bought it early, who buy the first one, to give them an upgrade price so they get the white label. And because he was just trying it out. He said, if it works, I'm gonna, works pretty well for me, then I want to get the white label. So okay. And so anyway, I went ahead and made the white label and I was thinking agencies, but here, some of the people who've been interested in it in the last week or two, I can tell they wouldn't classify themselves as agencies. I have had some interest from people who are run-of-the-mill website designers. Beth Livingston started, pinging me. She's a coach.
I know Beth very well.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's a coach, has a group of coaches,
Mm-hmm.
and they all seem to be. Some of them seem to be in this space, and so I'm finding people who are more or less solo type people that I would call them consultants. Excuse me. We're all consultants, really. And the consultants, the people who are probably more of a consultant, are the ones that seem to be really interested in it. But I think a coaching client, if you're a marketing coach of some kind, you could benefit from it for sure. But I put out an email a while back, but really you could take this and, you're leaving money on the table. You get the white label. If somebody comes to you and you say, I need content, and they say, I don't know what to do, you say, well, that's good. I'll have for X amount of money, whatever you want to charge is up to you. Whatever you think you can get. I have a consulting session. We go through this website copy framework, however many sessions you think it'll take. You will help pull out some of the answers you need. I know Jason Vance told me that a client said he handed him the framework to go through, and they said, this is great. Now I just went from I don't know where to start to now I can do this. And so it's not like I said, it's not a fill in the blank turnkey thing, which sometimes we want, but it is, you're as a business owner, all business owners need to wrestle with, what is my value proposition? What are the benefits of my company? What
Yeah.
benefits to, what are the features? How do I write an about page? What is my story? These kinds of things are, those are the core elements. My friend who's a conversion copywriter, Anna, who's from Canada too, I believe, she calls it, it's generally, there's a core messaging component to every copywriting. It's called different things, but she calls it the messaging DNA or something like that. But the idea on the DNA is it's something is vital to your, and I think it's a brilliant analogy. I love it. I tend to go with message compass. I think it works better for me because once you have your message, all the core elements, you know which direction you're pointing at all times for your message. But there's another copywriter who's made a living off of doing this, of helping define these things. But it was in a different era. It was for people who he handed people a manual of all these things. He helps them break all that out. It's fantastic. I looked into doing
the WCF for agencies, and we think it's a really good idea. Let's talk pricing. What do you charge for the WCF, and what do you charge for the WCF for agencies?
The one I call for businesses is $97.
Okay.
I have had copywriter friends that say, you really packed a lot of value in this and you probably should charge more, but I haven't. I've kept it where I thought most business owners could take it and use it. And it's a tool and it's not real valuable until you use it. So, but the agency, I have it $199 and it very well may go up next year. And I am looking at tiered pricing for different things, but right now that's what we have. 97 for the single and 199 for, I think it's 199 for the agency, the white label one.
And frankly, guys, I've seen it. I've looked at it. I've used it. $199 is deal. I think Todd should be selling it at $297. Like, so I would jump on it like now before Todd actually increases his price, because it's going to happen. And
likely. So I have built I launched a Facebook page for the product. I kind of got that idea from Kim and Jody with their planner. I thought, well, that's probably a pretty good idea. I am looking to build a community around it at some point. How I haven't just figured out the logistics for that yet. But either teachable or launch a WordPress install with one of the LMS something. I haven't decided
or maybe, and you and I have talked about doing this, or maybe building the community in something like Google Classroom. I mean, we've talked about that too.
Well, that would, but can you do community in the Google Classroom? Like, can you see people and all that? I mean, that's the thing that I'm like, okay, because, and here's the thing, and I'm in a few, right? I'm in Jason Reza's in the feast, or whatever he calls that, and it's a good one. I try to participate. It's a nominal cost.
$5. Jason Reza's like $5 a month. But the point is to build a community around it.
Yeah, build a community. So whether it's going to be Slack or, Jason is now using Podia, Brendan Hufford's using Podia, that's an option. But frankly, I think the discussion works better in Slack from what I've seen. Slack or Facebook group, which everybody's on. I'm not crazy about that idea, but that may be what I end up doing. But you would get in because you'd have to pay one of the upper tiers to get one of those. But that community would be a place where people go share successes, how they use it. Because frankly, I have one thing in mind, but I have you never know. Somebody may go, well, this is how I use it, and like, wow, that's a cool idea. I mean, I don't know everything there is to know. I would love to get some copywriters in the community too, who could contribute as well. We would do some, and when I experimented with this earlier this year, but we would do some office hour type things, maybe once or twice a month, that kind of thing. So that's what I'm probably looking to do by 2021, assuming we're all still here.
We'll all still be here, folks.
Yeah. And then I may do a top end tier somehow where you get like 4 or 5 hours with me. I haven't nailed all that stuff down, but that's what I'm looking at. So the likelihood that the agency or the white label stays at $199 is not real good. Also, I can do a resale. I haven't got that on the website, but I had somebody that wanted it, and I issued an invoice, so that'll be a yearly thing. So you'll pay the same amount every year. Basically license it to resell it, but that is not what is on the Gumroad. So if anybody wants to go down that road, you'll have to contact me. I'll issue invoices every year. We'll probably get that on the website somehow at some point, where it's just automatic, like your card is debited every year when it comes time. But probably I have easy digital downloads installed, and eventually I'll probably use something like that.
Yeah. If you're looking to get at the copyright framework, a couple of places you can go. The product hunt page. You can go to the stunningdigitalmarketing.com resource page. There's links to both Todd's products on that page. You can look Todd up. In the show notes down at the bottom, I'll actually put a link to the product hunt page, so you can go right there and purchase it. Todd, if somebody's got a question, how's the best way to get a hold of you?
You can email me, of course, Todd@copyflight.com. I am on Facebook, pretty active, probably too active, but a lot of people ping me on Facebook. I will tell you that if I'm not a friend with you, it might be a little while before I see it, because I don't always check the other messages, but I do sometimes eventually see it. But if you're on Twitter, LinkedIn, I'm pretty active on Twitter too. If you just tag me, a lot of times I'll catch that. I love having conversations on Twitter.
And tag Todd with a wrestling gif. That will do wonders and get his attention.
Wrestling or a cat.
Or a cat.
Yeah. But yeah, I told actually emailed Talia after she said they were interviewing Bob Ross, the painter. I thought that was a cool idea, and I said, you need to interview Dwayne Johnson. And she emailed back and she said, The Rock. I said, yeah. I said, Ross knows who he is.
Yeah, there, no question.
Ross and I have had some wrestling discussions on Twitter.
No question about that one. Thanks, Todd, for your time. Good luck with the product. Good luck with the product hunt launch. That's exciting. It's been a big week. And have an amazing day, my friend.
Have a stunning day.
Thank you.